The call. Jenna was exhausted after a long day at work. She dragged herself through the front door of her small apartment, gently kicking it closed behind her. All she wanted to do was collapse into bed and sleep away the stresses of the day. But as she tossed her keys onto the kitchen counter, her phone lit up with a new notification. Sighing, she swiped the screen to see who was contacting her now. It was an unknown number. Probably a spam call, she thought, ready to ignore it and move on with her evening routine. But something made her hesitate. Curiosity got the better of her and she reluctantly tapped to answer. "Hello?" she said tentatively. At first, there was only silence on the other end of the line. Jenna was about to hang up, convinced it was a glitch or wrong number, when she heard faint, ragged breathing. "Hello?" she repeated, more forcefully this time. Still nothing but that eerie inhalation and exhalation. She felt a chill run down her spine. Just as she was pulling the phone away to end the call, a thin, reedy voice whispered, "Help me," before disappearing into a fit of wet, hacking coughs. Jenna froze, heart racing. There was no mistaking the desperation and panic in that plea, though she had no idea who she was speaking to. Against her better judgment, she raised the phone back to her ear. "Hello? Can you hear me? What's wrong?" More coughing. "Then a week I don't know where I am. It's so dark." The voice was diminishing rapidly. Jenna glanced around her empty apartment, wishing there was someone else there to advise her on what to do. Her natural instinct was to help whoever was in distress on the other end of the line, but she knew nothing about the situation or if it was even real. As she hesitated, unsure of her next move, the voice returned with an agonized wail. "Please. It's coming for me. I can hear it outside. You have to help." A terrifying crashing sound suddenly exploded from the phone, followed by an unearthly, bone-chilling shriek that seemed to vibrate through Jenna's very core. She yelped and dropped the phone, clutching her chest as her heart raced out of control. When she managed to catch her breath and stooped to pick the phone back up, there was only dead silence. Whatever had been on the other end was gone. Jenna sat shakily on her couch, replaying the disturbing sounds and pleas for help over in her mind. Every rational impulse told her it must have been a prank, a very convincing and elaborate one. But she couldn't shake the genuine fear and suffering she had heard in that disembodied voice. Against her better judgment, she knew she wouldn't be able to rest until she tried to figure out what was going on. She pulled up the call log and traced the number, hoping for any clue as to its origin. But it turned out to be completely untraceable, no carrier, no location data whatsoever attached to it. A cold sweat broke out across Jenna's body as invisible tendrils of panic clawed at her thoughts. Rationally, logically, she knew there was no way whoever had called could really be in danger or that she could help them. But some deep, primal part of her brain was now convinced that whatever that voice had encountered in the dark, it was very, very real. And very close. Jenna grabbed her coat and keys with a shaking hand, deciding she needed fresh air and distraction. As she stepped outside into the chilly night, she took several deep breaths, trying to steady her nerves. The streets were quiet and empty at this late hour, the glow of the streetlights casting long shadows everywhere. A stiff breeze rustled the bare tree branches overhead like bony fingers grasping at the night sky. Jenna folded her arms tightly and hurried down the sidewalk, wanting only to put as much distance as possible between herself and that unexplained phone call. She walked aimlessly for over an hour, lost in a tense fog, jumping at every tiny sound. By the time she finally checked her phone again, it was past midnight. With a weary sigh, Jenna realized she was now miles from home with no easy way to get back quickly. As she looked up to get her bearings, she froze in her tracks. Down the dark alleyway across the street, something was moving. At first it was just a twitch, a fleeting distortion in the shadows. But then it emerged further, resolving into a hunched, cloaked figure lurching erratically along the gravel. Jenna stood paralyzed, barely daring to breathe as she tracked its jerky, unpredictable motions. Something about it seemed wrong, unnatural. As it drew nearer to the mouth of the alley, dragging one leg behind it, its head lifted. Two glinting orbs peered out at Jenna from the depths of its hood, shining with an unearthly phosphorescence in the gloom. A guttural gurgle rose from its throat, threatening to trigger Jenna's flight response. But her legs refused to cooperate, rooting her to the spot in mute horror. The thing took a shambling step out onto the sidewalk, into the pool of lamplight. Jenna gasped involuntarily at the ghoulish visage revealed, grey, withered skin stretched taut over protruding bones, sunken eyes and a gaping maw full of jagged teeth. It was like something exhumed from a grave yet still animate with malevolent intent. As their eyes locked, Jenna knew with chilling certainty that this abomination was what that doomed caller had encountered in the darkness. And now it had come for her. With a grunting hiss, it lurched into a lopsided run, racing towards her with inexorable hunger. Pure animal instinct finally kicked in and Jenna shrieked, whirling and sprinting away as fast as her legs could carry her. Her breath came in ragged gasps, heart pounding fit to burst as the hard footsteps of pursuit echoed eerily behind her. She dared not look back, sensing it gaining with every pump of emaciated limbs. Panic clouded her mind, blocking out all thought but the urge to flee. Jenna careened wildly down street after street, darting random turns in a desperate bid to lose her hunter. But still it dogged her footsteps with preternatural stamina and focus. Her limbs burned with exhaustion, lungs searing for oxygen, but she refused to slow even a fraction. Only survival drove her now. As her vision began to grey and darkness closed in from the edges, Jenna spotted a faint glimmer of hope up ahead, the automatic doors of a 24-hour convenience store, a solitary outpost of light and safety in the unforgiving night. With a hoarse battle cry of effort, she found one last reserve of energy and hurled herself towards salvation. The thing let out an outraged howl as she cleared the threshold, scrambling around to slam the doors shut behind her. Through the glass panes she watched it fling itself at the barrier with hatred, peeled lips drawing back from its maw in a horrible rictus. But the doors held firm. As Jenna slumped to the floor, gasping for breath, the dark figure gradually shuffled away into the night, seemingly giving up the hunt for now. She closed her eyes and let the reality of her narrow escape wash over her shaking form. When she opened them again, she found the frightened faces of the clerk and other patrons staring down at her with concern and confusion. In a trembling voice, Jenna explained what had just pursued her to this safe haven, expecting disbelief or dismissal. But to her shock, recognition dawned in their eyes. A Dokkaebi. The clerk muttered, exchanging tense glances with the others. When Jenna pressed for an explanation, he launched into a chilling tale. Centuries ago, these misshapen demons would lurk in alleys and forests, preying on lost or vulnerable souls after dark. But most people now thought them extinct, relegated to legend. Until recently, that is, when a string of mysterious disappearances and encounters with deformed creatures had locals on edge once more. The police refused to acknowledge any supernatural angle, attributing everything to random crimes or mass hysteria. But the people knew the truth. The Dokkaebi had returned, and were growing bolder with every night that passed. As Jenna sat processing this revelation, a deep dread settled into the pit of her stomach. That phone call, had she unwittingly drawn its attention by answering? And more disturbingly, was she now marked as its next target in a long line of victims? In the days that followed, Jenna dared not venture out alone after dark. But her restless mind refused peace, reliving her harrowing escape over and over. She pored obsessively over any scrap of folklore or news regarding the Dokkaebi, hoping to understand its motives and abilities. One unsettling fact stood out: these monsters were said to be drawn to negative energies like fear, anger or grief. The more their prospective prey dwelled on such dark emotions, the easier it became for the Dokkaebi to sense and track them. Jenna knew she had to try and break the cycle of fear if she wanted any chance of slipping from the Dokkaebi's awareness again. Easier said than done when nightmare images assaulted her mind constantly. In a desperate bid for distraction, she threw herself back into her work with frenzied focus. For a while it seemed to be working. Her nights passed without incident and the dark circles faded from her eyes. Jenna started to believe she may have overcome the greatest hurdle after all. But deep down, some small kernel of dread refused to dissolve completely. A lingering sense that she was only postponing the inevitable lingered at the back of her mind. One night as she was leaving late from the office, exhaustion pulled at her senses like an insidious fog. Jenna stumbled carelessly through dimly lit streets, no longer vigilant in her tired haze. That small spark of fear had dwindled to a faint ember, easily smothered under waves of fatigue. She barely noticed as the sidewalks grew emptier, the buildings more dilapidated on the fringes of the city. A scrabbling noise echoed softly from a narrow alley up ahead. Jenna glanced up with vague interest, not really registering the figure half concealed in the gloom. As it slid fully into view, her blood ran cold with dawning horror. Grey flesh, hollow eyes, twisted limbs, it was the Dokkaebi from her nightmares given animate form once more. But this time, some strange spark of recognition passed between them. Jenna gasped as unwanted memories suddenly flooded her mind, fragments of dreams where she prowled these very streets, driven by a hunger beyond imagining. Where the boundaries between hunter and prey blurred into irrelevance. She stared into its fathomless eyes and saw her own maddened reflection staring back from within their depths. A low cackle escaped her throat, echoing the Dokkaebi's own otherworldly laughter. As one, they turned and melted deeper into the shadows, two souls now fused in a darkness beyond humanity's light or understanding. Whether by possession or some deeper symbiosis, Jenna had joined fully with the entity that haunted her darkest imaginings. Prey and monster blurred into one terrifying whole, lost to the primal rush of the hunt through eternity's long night.